The shelter was alive with noise-barking tails thumping against metal bars, paws scratching at cages as families walked down the aisles. Dogs jumped, whined, and begged for attention, each one desperate for a chance at freedom. But in the middle of all this chaos, there was one cage that remained still. A German shepherd sat pressed against the cold steel bars, his head bowed, his body motionless. He didn't bark, he didn't wag, he didn't even lift his eyes when people passed. The staff had a name for him, the Ghost, because that's what he seemed like, a shadow, a dog who had given up. He had been brought in months ago, found wandering the streets with ribs showing no collar and no microchip. Every attempt to coax him out of his silence had failed. Children knelt in front of him with treats. Adults whistled. Staff members begged him to respond. But nothing worked. He just sat there, hollow, like he was waiting for someone who would never come. And then everything changed. Emma, an 8-year-old girl in a pink dress, walked into the shelter with her parents. She had begged for a dog for months, but there was something different about her visit that day, while other children squealed at the sight of wagging tails. Emma walked slowly, seriously, her small hand gripping her mother's tightly. She studied each cage with unusual focus, her eyes scanning, searching not for just any dog, but for something more. Halfway down the row, Emma froze. She couldn't move. Her eyes locked on the silent shepherd. Her father leaned down. "Do you see one you like, sweetheart?" But Emma didn't answer. She couldn't, because in that moment, the dog, who hadn't moved in months, lifted his head, his body trembled, his ears twitched, and then, to everyone's shock, his eyes filled with tears. A broken, raw cry burst from his chest, a sound so deep and aching it silenced the entire shelter. Families stopped mid-step. Children turned. Staff froze where they stood. The ghost, the dog who never reacted to anyone, was now pawing desperately at the bars, reaching, crying, trembling as if his heart had finally recognized something or someone. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Her tiny hand slipped through the bars, reaching for him. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Mom, it's him." The room buzzed with confusion. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" her mother asked softly. Emma pressed her forehead against the bars. "This is Max." Gasps spread across the shelter. Staff exchanged startled glances. Families leaned closer. Max. It was a name her parents hadn't heard in months. Max was their family's dog, the German shepherd who had vanished without a trace months ago. They had searched the neighborhood, put up posters, called every shelter, every vet. Emma had cried herself to sleep for weeks, praying Max would somehow come home. But eventually, with no leads, they had been forced to give up hope. And now, here he was. The ghost wasn't a ghost at all. He was Max. The staff hesitated, flipping through the shepherd's intake paperwork. This dog was found starving on the streets. No collar, no chip. "We don't have proof he's yours." Emma's father frowned. "Look at him. Look at her. You really think this is a coincidence?" But the staff stayed cautious. Dogs can look similar. We can't just assume no, Emma cried, shaking her head so hard her hair whipped across her cheeks. It's him. He remembers me. I know it. And the shepherd seemed to prove her right. He pressed so hard against the bars they rattled, his paw clawing to reach her hand, his tail silent for months, thumped against the floor like a drum. His cries grew louder, sharper, desperate. Emma's mother knelt beside her daughter, tears forming in her own eyes. Sweetheart, if this really is Max, call him it. Emma wiped her cheeks, took a deep breath, and whispered just 2 words. Max, come here, boy. The shelter went silent. The shepherd froze, his body stiffened. His ears shot up. Recognition blazed in his eyes like lightning splitting the night. And then, with a cry that turned into joyous, frantic barking, the dog lunged at the cage. He jumped, scratched, leaped, his tail whipping the floor like thunder. His eyes locked on Emma with a love no paperwork could ever deny. The ghost was gone. Max was back. Keys shook in a staff member's hands. The lock clicked, and the moment the door swung open, Max exploded out, not away, not in fear but straight into Emma's arms. She fell to her knees as 80 pounds of fur and love crashed against her chest. He smothered her with kisses, whining, barking, crying all at once. Emma laughed and sobbed, clinging to him, her small arms wrapped around his thick neck. Her parents stood frozen, tears streaking their faces as they watched their daughter reunite with the dog they thought was lost forever. The shelter erupted. Families gasped. Staff covered their mouths. Strangers wiped their eyes. One worker whispered, "I've been here 10 years. I've never seen anything like this." Paperwork was signed faster than ever before. The staff didn't argue. This wasn't adoption, it was reunion. And when the family finally walked out of the shelter, Max by Emma's side, the sun broke through the clouds as if the sky itself was celebrating. Emma held the leash tightly in one hand and stroked Max's fur with the other. Her cheeks were wet with tears, but her smile was brighter than the sun. "Thank you," she whispered to the staff as the door closed behind her. Outside, Max lifted his head to the open sky and barked. Not in sorrow, not in longing, but in pure, undeniable joy. The ghost was gone. Max was home. And that is why you should never underestimate the bond between a child and her dog. Because sometimes, even when the world says it's impossible, love finds its way.